It's not easy now, and it's never gonna be easier. Your dreams sometimes do have a window, and that window is not forever. Comparison can be the thief of joy. It can also be the seed of possibility. What is the smallest goal you can make that puts you one step in that direction? Every idea is a bad idea until it's been tested in the marketplace. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. If you're not willing to invest in your mind for at least 15 minutes every day, it's gonna atrophy. If I'm not willing to sacrifice something to make this happen, then I just don't really want it.
Today's guest is Daniel Baarns, entrepreneur, founder of Baarns Detailing, and the author of Just Start, a book about overcoming the internal battles that quietly kill dreams before they ever begin.
Yeah.
Daniel, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Corey. This is awesome to be here.
Yeah, and it's a pleasure to have you. And Daniel, you do a lot more than what I just introduced you as. So can you introduce for the audience, what do you do and what are you about?
Yeah, so my name is Daniel Baarns, and I'm a author and speaker and an entrepreneur. And my book actually went #1 in a category on Amazon, as well as I've got a newsletter with over 100 newsletters that have gone out, and executives from both Apple and Intel read those. And really the pain that I see is so many young men have great dreams and ideas that they want to do, and so often lack the courage and the willingness to take that first step. And I wrote this book because that was me. I know what that's like. And my aim is to be the person, not someday, but today, who is proof that action can create something. And really, because I believe if more young men were to start building the life of their dreams in their 20s and not push it off until someday, that would impact not just them, but families, communities, and the world would just be a much healthier and better place if we started today.
Yeah, that's amazing. If they just started today. And I think that's kind of what your book kind of alludes to is just start. I mean, and that's what it's titled. And we're going to get into it. So I'm looking forward to it. But Daniel, before we begin, we do a segment where the last guest leaves a question for the next guest. And you may have kind of already alluded to it or answered parts of it. It's this: what is your why? And what is it about your why that matters so much?
I think the shortest way to say that is people over everything. When I was younger, I think I was really very efficiency minded. Like at 15, I would play drums and I would practice for 3 hours a day, even though it wasn't my parents, it was something that I wanted to do. And I would not go to the pool with my friends if I hadn't done my work. This was all self-imposed work. No one was holding me to this except for me. And over time though, like that built something in me, but also it made me realize, hey, efficiency just for efficiency's sake isn't that valuable. And it made me go, what's the next thing? Well, I think if it's not about efficiency, then what's after that? Then it was productivity, and maybe, okay, no, it's not that. Then money, no, it's not that. Maybe experiences, no, it's not that. And then eventually I went, oh, it's actually people. That investing in other people is the thing that provides the most life. And I think that does come down to having some level of a faith background and going, at least for me, I am created in the image of God. And so when I can remember that allows me to infuse that into what I'm doing and go, this is not about me. That has been the most important, probably like through line of everything business or otherwise that I've done so far has really been about that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. I mean, if I could summarize, it's people over everything. Yeah. You want to instill, when you distill that actually all the way down, it's encouraging someone and unlocking their potential. And so when you see someone's potential get unlocked, there's so much more that they can do. But you kind of, and I'm going to side quest this for a little bit. So sure. I'll kind of get back to my prep in a little bit, but I want to ask, you mentioned the biblical aspect of it. So made in the image of God, and there's so much more that you can do with that potential. Now, at a young age, you're kind of holding yourself to the standard, and you're coming to that conclusion early on, is what it sounds like, that people matter. Was that because of the biblical background? Was that your spiritual background? Or is that something that came later? Was it influenced through I guess spirituality that was like, oh, at the end of it, maybe this is why people matter so much?
I think there's a few different aspects of it. One, I from a pretty young age, I knew what it was like to be on the outside. And ironically, I think the spiritual side of it is, I don't know why, but I was incredibly good at taking negative, painful experiences and turning them around super fast, like almost real time, and going, I do not have to do this to someone else. Instead, I'm going to go, what do I wish they would have done? And I'm going to do exactly that, not what was done to me. As simple as when I was the one who could sit in the front seat, I would let my younger sister sit in the front seat because I knew what it would have meant to me had someone been that for me. And that has been true in every area. When I first moved up here and I started playing drums, I was one of the worst drummers. And later on, when I was one of the better drummers, I went, what did I wish what did I experience? Because there were some of the guys that were better than me that were super kind, really helped me. And I always went, that's the person that I want to be. Like someday, I think I will have that power. I will have that authority, and I will have that position. At that point, I want to be the one who's going, no, I'm not trying to stifle other people's abilities or greatness. I'm going, no, I want you to have this too.
Yeah, there's actually, I think Alex Ramosi said this, and he may have got it from someone else, I'm not sure, but he goes, the parable goes like this: pain either turns people into heroes or villains. And for the hero, they see that pain and they want no one else to ever experience that pain again. So they go in and they do everything they can to give the people those opportunities to flourish, to never experience what they experienced. Yeah. Versus the villain takes that same pain and says, because the world hurt me, I'm going to hurt the world back. And then they replicate it. So you have the same pain and you have two different outcomes. It's pretty much the Batman story, basically. You know what I mean? So it kind of sounds like it's not so much of the spiritual teachings that kind of led you to that why. It was just kind of your conclusion that, hey, I'm not going to be the villain of my story. I'm not going to then take this pain and replicate it. I'm going to take this pain and prevent other people from experiencing that pain, whether you said it, like you want someone else to know what it would have meant for you to be in the front seat, or for you to have the opportunity to play the drums, or for you to do this. And so you're like empathetic in that sense. Like, I know someone else is going to be struggling because I've struggled. So let me get them and show them a compass, or give them the opportunity that I never had, because I don't want to see them hurt the way I hurt, essentially. So that kind of is your ultimate, when I peel it back, it kind of sounds like your driving motivation as to like what keeps you to write the book, to help others, to teach younger people that they can start, they are capable, and there's so much more to their life. It's that you figuring that out and then trying to help someone get there quicker.
There's a podcast that I listened to years ago called Fathers and Sons. When I listened to that podcast, there was a prayer in there that really changed my life in a lot of ways. And the prayer is this: I'll just pray it over us, which is, I pray that we would be people that live by faith, are known by love, and are voices of hope, that we would dream great dreams and have the courage to pursue them. And I heard that prayer inside of a podcast during COVID, and I ended up listening to that podcast enough times that I memorized that prayer. And then I started sharing it with people. And in a lot of ways, this book is an outflow of that, because without that prayer and that moment, that then leads me to go and live in Ecuador for 77 days. While I'm there is where the book and the idea to write a book before the age of 35 is really born. And if I don't listen to that podcast, I don't memorize that prayer, I don't start sharing it with people, have it affect who I am, then I don't go to this space where I have enough silence to go, who do I want to become over these next 5 years? Because I was going to turn 25 while I was there. I went, who do I want to be by the time I'm 35? And an author was one of those things.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm glad that you listened to that podcast, because it kind of led you down for this book, for your trip, and so many other things. And so really awesome. And that's actually a perfect segue to get into the book, actually. So let's get into it. Chapter 0. So you talk about frustration, feeling like ideas slowly die while life keeps moving on. So what is the biggest lie that holds people back? The one, and maybe there's probably more than one, so the one or two or three that ends up getting people to kind of slowly give up.
I would say the two biggest lies they're actually words. One of them is someday, the other is later. And so if you've identified a dream or something that you want, if you're telling yourself, hey, when I'm older, it will be easier, I think you and I both know that usually life gets a little bit harder, a little bit more complicated. The responsibilities increase. What is expected of us actually becomes more challenging. And so I think a huge piece of it really is just identifying what are the things that I do want that are most important to me. And then why am I choosing not to take action today? And a big piece of it is you're going to be bad in the beginning, and just accepting that this is day one. And the beautiful thing is, like, if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a video of me introducing myself at 18, and I will probably clip 18-year-old Daniel and then 29-year-old Daniel today doing this intro, because it will be such a difference. And 18-year-old Daniel thought that by 19, I would be in a lot of ways, where I am at 29. It took a lot longer than I, in some ways, wished it would have. I'm also so grateful that when I did have the idea to start a business, I had heard this quote from a guy named Mark Randall. He sold his company to Adobe for $400 million. It really kind of is a piece of that first chapter, which is every idea is a bad idea until it's been tested in the marketplace. And for me, when I was going, someday I wanted to start a business. Like, that was always my goal when I was in college, was I wanted to have an income producing business before I finished college. Well, I was 6 months away from graduating college and was like, frick, I don't have a business yet. And so I had heard Mark Randall say that quote. And I was like, well, he sold his company for $400 million. Maybe I should listen to him. Then my dad just mentioned offhandedly, like, a detailing business. And I was like, I don't know. And then I just went, it's a bad idea anyway. Why don't I just try it? So less than 7 days later, I came back up here, knocked on 30 doors, going, I don't think anyone's going to care about this. So I'll just knock on some doors, like a few neighborhoods over, and nobody will know who I am. Super. And also on Father's Day, picked the worst day ever to try to do door to door. But got through to 18 people. 16 of them said no. I'm like an hour and a half in going, am I wasting my life? But then 2 said yes. And 1 even paid me on the spot. And I was like, wow, interesting. Okay. So this is not a terrible idea, because someone somewhere was willing to pay me. And so I think to that, the faster I have gotten at going, I have this idea. How do I decrease the amount of friction that I can put in my life to go from idea to output? Like, that has been a big, even current focus for me that I figured out even just over the last 2 weeks, where I've realized I can record a audio only podcast. I can plug in a microphone, talk to it, export the MP3, boom, it's live. Like, and so for me, I want the time between I have this idea to it lives to be as close to zero as possible. And so instead of when I have an idea, it's not just someday or later, because I'm going, nope, it's going to be harder later. So it's, if I can do it right now, I will just do it right now. And even if I can't do the full thing, I will go, what's a version 1? It's a really big thing, at least for me, is going, this does not have to be perfect, but it being shipped in some capacity. Like, I had this today, where yesterday I put out a YouTube video on how I learned to write. It's got 70 views, which is not like big in the grand scheme of thing, but that's big for me. I've got 100 subscribers on YouTube. So to have 70 views out of 100, I'm like, that's pretty sick. That's, even though it's small today, but it clearly is helpful in some capacity if it's getting a little bit of traction. And so I think that has been the biggest thing, is just going, how fast can I idea execution, and how fast can I make that time?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things you said there, but I'll kind of highlight a few. From 1 to 70 views. I mean, I wouldn't be mad at talking to a stadium of 70 people or a classroom of 70 people. Yeah. Like, that's great. I would love that. Even if I had 15, a classroom of that size, I'd be happy giving a speech or something to that nature. So great job on the 70. Keep it up. The other thing, the someday and sometime later. Now, in the book, you write about going to Ecuador. You talk about COVID, your trip being canceled, and then your itinerary, and you're like, oh, geez, am I still going to go or not? So what was it that made you make that leap to say, I'm doing it anyways? Was it something that was bothering you internally, that you're like, I just don't want to be this way anymore? Or was it something else? Originally, I was going to go to Ecuador to visit a child that I'd sponsored through Compassion International. And it wasn't just like, oh, okay, cool, you're going to go
on this trip, I had taken Spanish 4 and a conversational class, which I had not taken a Spanish class in like 4 years. So to go from Spanish 3 4 years ago to Spanish 4, that's pretty intense. But I had done that because I went, I don't just want to go to this country. I want to be able to have conversations and have it be, I don't want to have to use a translator. So I went, what would be required of me to be able to do this? So I'm taking these classes, I've got this trip planned, and then it gets canceled. And to your point, I did have that moment where like it was so hard for me to say yes to going on that trip in the first place. Like I remember being in my room, like I can feel this shag carpet underneath my feet. Like I'm looking at the laptop and it's reflecting off of my face, and I'm about to spend it ended up being $3,600. At that time, the most money I'd ever spent on anything was like a $1,300 car. So imagine whatever the most expensive thing is you've bought and then multiply that by 3 to go on a trip. That's what it felt like to me. And so when the trip got canceled, I was going, I've invested this money. I've invested this time in learning this skill. It made me just kind of go, is there a way for this to still happen? Because really the dream that I had had since I was 17 was to go and live in a Central or South American country for 2 to 3 months. And that dream was still there. So I went, wait a second, if I was going to go there for 10 days for $3,600, could I do something similar for a few months for maybe an equivalent cost? And I also went, I'm not sure if I want to live there for 2 to 3 months. What's like a lesser version of that? I went, well, I could probably go for like 2 or 3 weeks. I had 2 jobs. I did not tell either of them. I just went, you know what? I'm just going to book the flight. And then I was afraid to tell them for like weeks, being like, am I about to lose both of these jobs over 3 weeks? And internally I went, well, this is like a dream that I've had since I was 17 and I'm now 24. So I've had it for 7 years. So over a quarter of my life, I've wanted to do this thing. If I'm not willing to sacrifice something to make this happen, then I just don't really want it. But I had been doing the Spanish. And not only that, but after I'd finished those classes, I would listen to podcasts in Spanish. My music was in Spanish. I'd watch movies on Disney Plus because they've got kids shows in Spanish. I also watched novelas and a bunch of other stuff. So I really just immersed myself in that world. And it was a matter of, I knew that I would regret potentially for the rest of my life not taking that moment. Like if I did not do this now, the thought of going, I had the chance, I had the opportunity, I had everything I needed to say yes. And not because of a lack of willingness, but just because of a lack of courage. That was the reason why I didn't do this. I was like, absolutely not.
I think the thing to take away is like, it's going to be painful either way, whether you start or whether you do nothing. The pain of regret is going to be just as painful as you trying. So just pick your pain at that point.
Yeah.
But you're over there, you're going to Ecuador now, you're making that trip. You said it was a goal of yours for 7 years. So you're anticipating this. COVID happens, trip gets canceled, and you're like, I'm not going to let that happen. Anyways, I'm not going to say someday or at a later time. So you don't let those 2 lies kill your dream. What would you say to someone who's kind of going through that same thing where they want to fulfill their dream, but they also don't want to sacrifice or go through the pain of trying to achieve it?
Me doing what I said I wanted to do basically proved to myself in a sense, oh, I'm the type of person that can do this stuff. And had I not gone to Ecuador and done that, I think there's a lot of just unwillingness almost internally of I would not have believed that I was the type of person who could do these things.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. By you attempting to fulfill your dream, you kind of unlocked a piece of your potential that you didn't know was actually there. You came to the realization like, oh, I can do something that's actually hard, real-time problem solving, things that are uncomfortable and being in situations that you're not familiar with. But whether you would have failed or learned, you actually did it. You wouldn't have ever regretted trying. You would have learned something. And when you had the next idea, you would have taken what you've learned and applied it to that next idea. For the 24-year-old who's telling themselves right now, I'll do it later, or someday I'll do it, what would you tell them?
my message to you is simple, which is, what is the smallest goal you can make that puts you one step in that direction? Even if it's not the full business, even if it's not the full book, even if it's not the trip you want to do, it's what is the baby version of that thing? I'm doing that this summer where I'm like, there's almost always a smaller version of whatever the big dream, the thing that you really want. It's like, well, okay, but how could I do the like teeny tiny where it's like, oh my gosh, if I can't do that, like, then I just don't really want it. And that's the other thing too. It's also okay to say, hey, actually, I don't want that thing anymore. And that's the beautiful thing about testing the baby version. So maybe you go out and you get that client and you go, kind of hate this business. And what a great thing to know day one. You can then try the next thing. And that's the other thing, if you're 24, is going, this is not a life sentence. Like, this is a moment in time. And if you do this now, you will build skills and confidence and competence, which even if you don't do this thing forever, it will build something in you that will last.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I mean, it'll put something in you that will last. It's going to be that, hey, at least I learned I don't like this, or I learned that I like this. Could you imagine for your detailing job or your business that you created, going out there in the hot summers and realizing, you know what, I don't want to be in this heat 24/7. So maybe I'm not going to do this, right? You could easily change your mind, but you would have done it. You would have gotten feedback throughout that process, and you would have made a more informed decision whether you truly like it or not. Okay. Now, for someone that's kind of going through that process, you kind of allude to this in the book, is like that internal chatter where it's easy to create self-doubt or easy to be very destructive in the feedback when you're alone, when you're talking to yourself. How do you overcome the negative self-talk?
For me, a big piece of it is actually movement. So for me, being healthy and working out, that's been a huge part of my life for basically all of my life. The amount of things that are just solved by taking a walk is pretty immense, actually. And there's something about, like, our bodies are not really meant for sitting for hours. It's just like, from a blood circulation standpoint, like, it's just not ideal. That is a piece of it that I find I am a happier, healthier, and just more level human being by taking the time to go and work out. So that's like a practical thing. And then the other piece is going, what are my inputs? Like, what am I watching? What am I listening to? If I don't watch crime shows, do I become less scared? If I don't watch drama and these the dating shows that are not super healthy, does my dating life get better? Like, and so it's not a knock on those things. Like, those are works of art that people have created in a very specific way. And it doesn't mean I have to consume them. And so if I'm going, I want a healthy relationship one day, it makes sense for me to consume content that's going to help me have a healthy relationship one day. And so that's a thing, is guarding what goes into my eyes and into my ears. And then also making sure that I'm putting positive input in. You want to be investing in your mindset at least for 15 minutes every single day. And again, in a similar way, that if you're not willing to invest in your mind for at least 15 minutes every day, it's going to atrophy. It's going to go away. And so if you can grow yourself in some way every single day, that will make a difference. And I used Mentorfish specifically, which was Keith Kochner's program, essentially from 18 until about 25. And I have taken that same mentality in that now it's podcasts or audiobooks, but that same idea of, am I listening to something that is growing me? Also, even if you don't have a faith background, if you've never read through Proverbs, like, that is a book that I've spent a tremendous amount of time in. And there is so much gold there that if you have no desire to know God, you will live a better life if you read and understand Proverbs.
I think the highlight there, if I could rephrase it, is the input. If your mind is like a garden and you plant negative thoughts, whether it's music, friends, family, whatever your thoughts are coming in is what's going to end up coming out. So when that negative chatter comes, you can really combat that by changing your inputs, because over time, it's going to be positive things that you've planted. They're bearing fruit. And then that's going to keep you motivated to continue going down your dreams, to just start to fulfill that micro accomplishment, to give you that win, to try to get that next micro accomplishment, and so on and so forth.
I think one other piece too is I had this happen earlier this week where I was having a moment where I was just like, wow, this is not who I want to be. And my reaction actually was to call my dad and go like, hey, this is the thing. And the thing that I really appreciate about my dad is that he's really good about just going, hey, you're not the only one who's experiencing this. Like, this low is kind of a normal, like, you're a human. And there have been multiple times in my life where he has done that for me, where it's just like, hey, like, this is hard. Like, yep, that's a lot of people experience that. And not in a demeaning, like, my experience, but just like, hey, this is a very human moment, because it can, in a sense, it can feel like I'm the only one who's going through this hard thing. And as soon as, at least for me, I'm reminded, oh yeah, like, other people are also experiencing this kind of a low, I'm not alone in this. And I'm like, okay. Like, as small as that is, having people that I know I can rely on, especially in low moments when the voices in my head are really loud, which I think in a lot of ways they are very loud for me. And I have people who I know see the best in me and want me to grow, and relationships that I've invested very deeply into. Like, they're there for me in moments when I really need them, which is something that not everyone has.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's kind of your support system. Yeah. And there's probably people that have ideas, that have these goals, that probably don't have a support system. And you kind of allude to it in your book, and you kind of alluded to it in a different podcast where you talk about a relationship audit. So can you tell me, for those, that don't have the support system, like, one, how do you find a support system, and what is that relationship audit? What does that process look like to kind of build that support system that you may not have this moment, but you kind of have the steps to get there so that you can have the right things in place to be successful?
So relationship audit essentially is a systematic way of looking at what are all the relationships that I interact with at least one time per month. So if I go to church, if I go to the gym, if I go to work, if I have family stuff, I will basically go through each of the geographical places that I go. And then I will just write the names of the people that I run into. And then you ask yourself, okay, there's roughly 5 areas of life: faith, foundation, finances, relationships, and health. And you use that as a filter of, think about each of the areas of my life. Does this person help me grow or become more of who I want to become in one of those 5 areas? And that's the frame is, you've got the people first, then you're going, the areas of life, are they helping me get better in the ways that I want to? Are they, from what I can tell, is it just a neutral relationship? Doesn't really seem to be making me better, but doesn't seem to be making me worse. And then there are people where you can pretty clearly say, they're probably making me worse. For me, what I do is I have green, yellow, and red. And that's how I just codify it inside of Google Sheets. And I think I end up doing this about once every 6 months is the cadence that I'm at right now. And I just go through and go, what are each of the spaces that I'm in? Who are all the people? And then if someone is a red, it's not like, okay, bye, like, get out of my life. For me, it's not that way. It's really just maybe at one point we were really like, we were moving in the same direction, and now we're not. And that doesn't mean that I eliminate them from my life and we never talk again, but maybe it's hey, we used to hang out every week. Now we hang out every other week. Or we hung out once a month. Now we hang out once a quarter. Or we used to see each other, like, go on a trip once a quarter or whatever. Now it's once a year. So ideally it's a 90-day process where the people that are either red or are yellow, they slowly get transitioned into being lower priorities. And the people that are green are higher priorities. And then the way that builds into your support system is, it's not just a matter of, wow, these people are really good for me. It's also going, who are the people that I'm investing in? And are there people that I'm investing in? Because if all I'm doing is going, let me take, in a sense, from other people, but without investing into either them or other people, that becomes problematic. And so it's both. For me, even sharing that process always feels a little risky, if I'm honest. Like I made a YouTube video explaining it like 4 years ago that I never published.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good concept. Ultimately, for the people who have goals and are entrepreneurs that don't have the support system, because it's so easy for friends and family to say, oh, you're not good enough, or you can't do it, or you're not going to be successful, and to throw doubt on their dreams. By implementing a system that's going to lead you to some type of support, this will say, okay, well, I know my family friends are not supportive, so let me put them into the red bucket, because why do I need to spend time that are going to always be discouraging me? Yeah. And then the people that I can gain insight from, mentorship from, that can help me, I can put them into the yellows and greens, see them more frequently, because that's what's going to propel my dreams. That's what's going to propel my business, my goals, my aspirations, and so on and so forth. And you actually write about changing your environment in your book. It's a few chapters in, but what did changing your environment do for you in you accomplishing your dreams?
I think the first time that I changed my environment was actually moving up here to Sacramento. I grew up in the traffic capital of the world, aka LA. And so for me, coming up here was also the first time where I started to become a better drummer. I actually started to get to play drums in front of people and get better at that skill. So that was the first time that I changed an environment. The next time really probably would have been going to Ecuador. And it was really I had taken Spanish 1, I'd taken Spanish 2, taken Spanish 3 and Spanish 4 and a conversational class in Spanish. And the first trip that I took going to Ecuador, being there for 2.5 weeks, it was like something clicked. And a part of that is because I did all this prep, and now being in the right space, I can use it. So I'm also noticing that pattern of you do have to change your environment and increase the volume of how frequently for me, learning Spanish, meaning having more conversations, playing drums, playing more shows, for writing more newsletters.
There's a fish analogy where if you put a fish into a small fish tank, it can only grow to the size of the fish tank, to its surrounding, to its environment. So by moving to Sacramento, it opened up more opportunities for you to do drumming and more concentrated drumming to allow you to become the big fish in the big pond, and then allow you to kind of achieve your dreams of being really good at being a drummer, and then actually doing a lot more services and so on and so forth.
If being around people who are doing something like what you would want to be doing and are better at it than you, it's two things. It can be frustrating because you're going, gosh, they're so much better than me. And at the same time, it's really inspiring. I think it's Jesse Itzler said, comparison can be the thief of joy. It can also be the seed of possibility. And I love that. Everyone says comparison is the thief of joy. No, but I've very rarely heard it said that it's also the seed of possibility. And for me, like the gym that I go to, 2 days ago, there's a Lamborghini Storado, there's an Aventador, and like all these cars. And the cars are not like, that's not the end all be all. But to me, it's inspiring. I'm going, this guy's coming to the same gym just like me. Like he's not super more special or whatever. Like he's just a human. And so for me, being in an environment like that, I'm going, okay, there's clearly something here. Like we're in this same space. This is possible for me too. And now it's just going, what are the next steps that I need to take to get there? But I think some of it is going, I need to be in a space where there are people that are better than me in the area that I want to get better. And then go, how much time can I spend in that space? And I guess in a similar way to the relationship audit, you can also do that with the spaces that you're going to. I had a decision when I used to go to a much cheaper gym, and I went, let me just try this other gym for a few months. If it doesn't help me, then I'll just go back. I'm going to work out 5 to 6 days a week, regardless of how much I'm spending to go to a gym. But I found being at this other gym it really changed a lot of things for me. And that I went, wow, things that could cost money can actually make me money. And that's a thing that owning a business can do that I did not realize. For me, going to a cheaper gym would actually lose me money, which is strange to say because you're like, how she said that's crazy. But It's true.
Yeah, it all kind of builds upon itself. You do the relationship audit, you put the people that are supportive in your life, you do your location audit, you find out which environments are going to allow you to flourish, whether it's the gym that you go to or the city that you live in.
Yeah.
And then you obviously do the positive reinforcement so you don't have that negative self-doubt, that internal chatter. And then you get to this place of where you're investing into yourself in a way to be in a place that's going to increase your skills, your talents, your business. And you write talent stacking in your book. You write a section on this where people are easily going to spend money on entertainment, but they're rarely going to spend money on development. And so it's easy to go to a concert, but that same $100 that you're going to spend at a concert, you're not going to spend it for a gym membership that's going to allow you to network and be in front of business owners. So like, which one's going to take you further? And you were just talking about like, it would lose your money by going to a cheaper gym because you're not willing to pay the extra money, but you would easily pay that for a TV show, Netflix, movie theaters, but you wouldn't do it for yourself, right? So how did you come to that conclusion that talent stacking is more, I guess, rare than you think? And if someone's watching was like, okay, I kind of get the concept, but how do I apply that to my life? How would they apply that concept of talent stacking? What does that look like? What does that mean? How did they actually execute that?
So I had 6 months where I went, I don't really know what I want to do with my life long term. And this was like 2 years ago. So I had a business, but I was like, I don't know. So I felt kind of lost in the like big picture. And then I went, okay, really specifically, what's one thing? If I'm lost in the general, then I want to go specific. Go, what specifically, if I get better at, will make all the rest of my life better, regardless of what I do? And I honed in on, if I get better at enthusiasm and storytelling, those two skills actually make everything else better. If I operate a mobile detailing business. The fact that I can tell stories about mobile detailing makes it way more valuable. The fact that I can bring enthusiasm to this podcast, to playing drums, to just having energy in general. Like if you know someone has high energy that brings that to a space, like there are people that I can think of right now that when they walk in the room, I'm like, oh, we're going to have a great time. And that's a skill that for some people is natural. It's just who they are. And for some people, I think for me, it's a combination of it is somewhat who I am. It's also been a skill that I've consciously developed. And so that's really the first thing is, what are the skills that you do want to develop? And if you're going, man, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. Great. Is there one skill that you can see if I got better at this, it would help all the rest of my life? Probably. And I mean, I would start with enthusiasm is a great one. Storytelling is a great one. Learning to tell jokes. Like if you've never studied comedians, it's a valuable skill. Think about it. If you're someone who can capture attention and make people laugh, it's a valuable skill.
Yeah, it sounds like those talent stacks, they kind of transcend any specific job or business opportunity. It's more of like a characteristic change or a skill set that can be applied to more than one business. And there's, I guess, parallels that whether you use it for conversations or sales or relationship building and so on and so forth, you can take the enthusiasm as the example that we're talking about and apply it to every situation. So it's kind of like investing in yourself in a way, whether it's through the memberships or through the education or the skill sets, because it's going to help you go a little bit further. Talk to me about your struggle. Has there ever been a moment about where you're writing the book, you're going to Ecuador, you're doing these things, you're now a drummer, you've been practicing. Has there ever been a situation that shook your confidence to the core? You're like, dang, I really don't think I can do this?
Yeah, 9 months into my detailing business, I had this realization, which was I'm pretty good with people, pretty bad at actually detailing, which is really problematic. And I went, frick, like this is a real problem. And at any new venture kind of goes through this cycle where it's like a valley that goes down and then goes back up, which is there's uninformed optimism, informed pessimism, valley of despair, and then informed optimism, and then success eventually. But I was in this valley of despair being like, I'm really bad at this thing and I kind of need to be good at it. Like, this is my full-time work now. Even though I was very analytical, I was not systematic. And so I would just miss things. And then when people would tell me that I had missed something, I would go, it wasn't a I missed something, it was a I was a failure. As much as I know that intellectually, I still would rather not be that way as much as possible. I still struggle with that. I'm like, if I could be perfect, there's a part of me that goes, that would be better. And then there's the other part of me that goes, but that's not relatable. So it's actually really beautiful that I am imperfect. But that is a consistent tension for me. And in that moment, I went, if this is going to be something that I'm going to do, I need to get better at the actual detailing side of it. And I had actually learned about this in-person 2-day training for detailing. And I remember going, am I going to spend all the money that I've made this entire month for this 2-day training? I'm not sure if that's worth it. And I'm not good at this. So why would I get trained on something that I'm not good at? I called the guy who was doing the training and talked with him about it. And I went, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And if it ends up not being worth it, then I will at least feel like I tried. And when I went there, I got 2 things. One, I learned how to do ceramic coating, which is a much higher end service than the stuff that I was providing before. And 2, I got a huge shift in my mindset around how much I should be charging, in that the mindset shift was, if you're not making between $75 to $100 per working hour as a detailer, you're not going to have a sustainable business, which some people would go, that's insane that that's what you're mentally aiming for. But remember that there's all the hours that I'm not actually working on a car that I have to work to get the cars. And so that's what you just need to do. And so I got those things of like the skill of ceramic coating that ended up being like a 400% return over the next 6 months. So that was really good. But it also shored up that real lack of skill, in that there were certain things that I didn't know. And after going through that training, it's not that I knew everything, but I knew a lot more. And that gave me the confidence to go, okay, maybe I don't suck at this as bad as I thought I did. And I could never see this turning into anything else or leading to me being able to join this gym or join these business networking groups or speak or write this book. Like, I couldn't see any of that. I was just like, I suck at detailing and I don't even think I want to do this long. Like, I couldn't see very far beyond it.
Yeah, you write about consistency also in your book. So it's now like you have the failure or your self-doubt where you're like, geez, this might not be it, but you're pushing through it. For the entrepreneur, the person who has their goals, their dreams, that feels like a failure, what advice would you give them?
I think there's a few things, which one is having the right people around you, like people that you can be honest with. For me, having other business owners that know what it's like to have the problems that I have, that has been a huge thing, to just know that I'm not alone in that. Also having friends and family who do care about me deeply. If you have those relationships, lean on those, especially in this moment. And here's what most people miss. We don't attach the same level of positive emotion to the things that we do well as the things that we don't do well. Like, if you do something bad, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm the worst person. Like, all the things make it a massive deal, versus do something well, like barely think about it. But if you take the time to go, that was a huge win. A small thing that I do, I literally, after I did this 2 days ago, I squatted 285 for 5. I was like, most I've ever squatted in my life. Afterwards, and I have a video, I literally go like this to myself, because we only associate good things with high fives. So as small as that is, when I have a win, I will high five to myself. I'm going to choose to let myself experience the win, let myself experience the success, let myself experience the good things that are in my life. And are there things to work on? 100%. Am I imperfect? Yes. And by choosing to focus on these good things, choosing to, even with relationships, go, this person is, at least if you're like me, most of our relationships are with other humans that are also imperfect, that are doing the best they can. And so when I can say, here are the good things about my friends, here are the good things that I really appreciate about my family, and consciously bring those things to mind, like that gets me out of that mental funk of being like, I feel like a failure, and going, okay, maybe these things did not work out how I wanted them to. And maybe I'm doing better than I thought I was.
Yeah. And I think the thing I like about it is that you didn't hide from the failure. You didn't just keep it to yourself. You didn't let it come in and create anxiety. You kind of went and shared like, hey, I'm realizing I'm not good at this. You went, called parents, siblings, whoever to get advice, get some feedback, reassess, and kind of focus on like what to do next. The big thing there is that you didn't let that failure become the lie that said that you can't do it. It was the thing that says, okay, there's an opportunity for improvement here. And what am I willing to do to improve on it? And that kind of allows you to continue the business and keep going forward. So for those that are out there that are feeling like they can't do what they're currently doing or are failing at what they're currently doing, it's not to say that they're failing. It's just an opportunity for them to reassess, find the resources, find the mentorships, find the networking groups, find some of the free stuff. Like you said, YouTube is available. There's ChatGPT, Claude, so on and so forth, that they can get directional information. It may not be 100% accurate, but we'll get them directionally going in the right direction to find out more ways and opportunities to test, reassess, reevaluate, and so on and so forth. So that actually segues me into this section on the book where it says that clarity is a myth. You move first and then clarity follows. So what did you mean by that? And how does that play out?
Essentially that if you're stuck in the general, go specific. If you're stuck in the specific, go general. If you're stuck in the specific of going, do I take this job or do I take this job? Do I move here? Then you can also zoom out and go, okay, generally, maybe I'm stuck in this specific thing, but generally, what do I want to do? And so it is actually helpful if you're stuck either way to then move. But that idea of clarity is a myth is Steve Jobs has a quote, which is, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. And so I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who's going, I could do this business, I could grow this podcast, I could do this thing, or I could do this thing. I don't know which one to choose. And I literally just went, it doesn't matter. Which one you choose actually doesn't matter. The important thing is that you choose one of them and build in hey, I will quit if it doesn't do this. Like you can absolutely write out, and it's actually better to do this ahead of time, because some people will keep doing something that probably you should stop and not do. But for most young men in particular, I think the more valuable skill is to go, I did a thing for 12 months, even when it was hard. And I think there's a fear to commit to the wrong thing that then causes many young men to not actually ever develop anything because of fear of trying the wrong thing, not realizing that doing something and doing it well, that will get the attention of people that may then open the door to the next thing. Now, if you're taking action and you're around the right people, but you're not the right person, those people are going to go, nope, definitely don't want to give you an opportunity. But if you are the right person and you're taking action, people start to go, someone actually trying. That's rare.
Well, yeah, I guess that you could call that rare. You mentioned two things there, and I want to highlight them for a second, is time boxing it. So giving yourself a period of time where you're going to stop and reassess. So you're not going to put a long-term commitment. You're going to maybe do 12 months. And then in hindsight, you're going to have clarity on, what worked, what didn't work. And that's where clarity is a myth, is you can't forecast that forward. It's only after you've overcome it or done it or tried is when you look back, you're like, okay, now I clearly see where I made the mistakes, where I made the successes, so on and so forth. One thing you said also that actually I want to double highlight is having an exit strategy. When you start a new project, identifying what leaving means. So it's kind of upfront, pre-planning, having that skeleton outline of this is what I anticipate. However, if the worst case happens and I go down this route, I'm going to cut my losses short, do that risk mitigation, and go a completely different route. Closer to the end of the book, you're writing about courage. The courage to start, as the book is titled, Just Start. So what does courage mean to you?
For me, it's it's in a lot of ways going, my story matters, which I think the lie that I believed for a lot of years was that my story isn't interesting. And so I would never share it, really out of of fear of going, it doesn't matter anyway. Why would I share it? And I think in many experiences in my life, I have actually shifted that. And it can be an ongoing battle at points. I don't think, at least for me, it's not an arrival, but going, I get to choose to live what I would consider a courageous life, which is doing things that require faith and require trusting that these things that are not certain will work in my favor. And I think that's a piece of it, in that in about a month or so, I'll be going on a missions trip to Central Asia. And like that's a piece of it. I think starting a business or any new project, that takes a level of courage to do that, to believe that it can become something, to keep on putting out both newsletters and just content in general does take a certain level of willingness to be okay with the fact that even some of the things that I've said today, there are going to be people that will, in a sense, just go, that just isn't, I don't like that piece of who Daniel is. That is okay. Like, it's not my preference. Sort of, I'd rather, if I'm really honest, I'd rather people like me. And at the same time, I'm going, if people know who I actually am and what I actually care about, I would rather, in a sense, be disliked by a small group of people for being who I actually am than be liked by everyone being someone that I'm not.
Yeah, it's the courage to be authentic, the courage to be different, and the courage to do things differently.
Yeah.
That's basically how I would summarize that. Daniel, there's so much more in the book that we didn't cover. Is there anything in the book that we didn't cover that you want to highlight?
I would say the one other piece would be the human problem, the chapter on that. I was in Istanbul in Turkey. I was overlooking this beautiful view, and I remember taking a photo, and I was like, man, I'm going to post this to my Instagram story, and everyone's going to be like, wow, it's so beautiful. And I'm going to know how lonely this moment felt. And I'm going to see all the people that will be like, wow, I wish I was Daniel right now. And I'm going to know internally how much I wish that I was getting to share this experience with people. And a part of why this moment felt that way was because there was a trip that was planned with a small group of friends, and then it ended up falling through to where it ended up just being me. So it wasn't that the experience was bad. It was beautiful. Like, I was in Istanbul, I could see the Asian continent, and I was on the European continent. I'd never experienced that before. And yet, as cool as that was a moment where I went, it's not just doing interesting things. It's about sharing them with people. And that is the part of why that phrase, people over everything, is there. Because if I have really cool things, or I get to have amazing experiences without people, they're just less valuable. Now, if you were able to do amazing things with great friends or with family, it usually makes them exponentially better. And sometimes you can do the most boring thing with the right people, and it's so fun. And so I think that's a piece of it too, is just recognizing that internally feels like a low. And so that recalibrated what I value to say, I do want to do interesting things. I do want to be around, have some great experiences, but really I want to share them with great people. So I think that if there's one chapter, it's either chapter 3 or chapter 4. I know it's called The Human Problem. That's the name of the chapter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we all kind of go through some loneliness at some time. But it sounds like the reveal there was that what matters more than the money, the fame, the trips, and everything else is the relationships, the people. And so if you are not building for your community or for your family or for the people that you care about, then maybe you should reassess your why. Is it just about you, yourself, or is it for something bigger than you? For the audience, is there one final message or a piece of advice that you'd like to share?
So when I was 24, I had someone who was 29, and he said some words that really were the reason why I went to Ecuador. And so if you are 24 and this is true for you, I hope that you will listen to this, which was, he said, you're 24, you're single, you're not in like a long-term career that you're going to be in for the rest of your life. It's not easy now, and it's never going to be easier. For me, it was, I wanted to go and live in Ecuador. He went, go do it. Do it now. It's never going to be easier. And I have a chapter on life doesn't get easier, you get stronger. And that is true. And your dreams sometimes do have a window, and that window is not forever. And so my encouragement would be just start.
Just start. Yeah. It's the easiest it's ever going to be, right? So
yeah,
that's awesome. Just start. Daniel, for people that want to buy the book, that want to follow you on your socials, where can people find your content and where can they find the book?
Yeah. So if you go to juststartbook.com, that's actually where my newsletter lives. And then if you go on Amazon, it's Just Start. I also have a YouTube channel that I'm putting stuff out at least once a week. And then I have a podcast through Spotify that is called Dreaming Great Dreams. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Daniel Baarns. The last name is spelled funny, Baarns.
Awesome. We'll get it in the description below. We'll get it in the pop-ups on the screen. For the audio listeners, just drill into the description so you can click to the links to quickly find the content. Daniel, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure sitting down and getting to know you a little bit more and getting to understand your journey of just starting. So thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for doing this. This was super fun, brother.
Awesome, man. Well, for the audience, the tragedy isn't failing. The tragedy is spending your entire life wondering who you could have become if you had just started. So thank you for watching this episode of the Key Concepts podcast. We'll catch you on the next one.